The stars had always been quiet. For 10,000 years, the Volturi Empire ruled the galaxy without question. They had conquered 2,000 worlds. They had crushed 100 species under their boots. They had built an empire so vast that light itself took years to cross it. And now, they had come for Earth. High Sovereign Kaloth stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Eternal Dawn. He was tall, even for a Volturi. His gray skin stretched tight over sharp bones. His 4 eyes glowed yellow in the dim light of the command deck. Around him, officers moved with quiet fear. No one spoke unless spoken to. No one dared. Through the massive viewing window, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black void. Kaloth studied it with disgust. Such a small planet. Such weak creatures living on it. The humans had only reached their own moon. They still burned dead plants for energy. They still killed each other over invisible lines on maps. Primitive, Kaloth said. The word dripped with contempt. His admiral, a scarred veteran named Vorith, stepped forward. The fleet is in position, High Sovereign. 500 warships. The humans have detected us. They are attempting communication. Kaloth smiled. It was not a kind smile. Let me hear them beg. The communication screen flickered to life. A human female appeared. She wore a dark uniform and sat in a room filled with other humans. Her face was calm, but Kaloth could see fear in her eyes. He fed on that fear. This is Secretary General Chun of the United Nations, the woman said. We come in peace. We wish to open diplomatic relations with your people. There is no need for conflict. Kaloth laughed. The sound echoed across the bridge. His officers joined in, though their laughter was nervous. Peace, Kaloth repeated. You speak of peace while you cannot even unite your own planet. You fight wars over patches of dirt. You pollute your own air. You are children playing with matches, and you dare speak to the Volturi of peace. Secretary General Chun leaned forward. We are willing to negotiate. Whatever you want, we can discuss it. Please. There are 8 billion people on this planet. Families, children. We only ask for a chance to talk. Kaloth waved his hand. The gesture was lazy, dismissive. The Volturi do not negotiate with insects. Your planet has resources we require. Your species will serve us as slaves, or you will serve us as dust. The choice is already made. The screen went dark. Admiral Vorith awaited orders. The entire bridge held its breath. Begin the demonstration, Kaloth commanded. Destroy one of their major cities. Let them understand what they face. The first plasma beam fell from the sky like the finger of an angry god. It struck New York City at 3 in the afternoon local time. The beam was a mile wide. Everything it touched simply ceased to exist. Buildings vanished. Streets melted. Millions of people died before they could even scream. The shockwave spread outward. It shattered windows in New Jersey. It knocked planes from the sky over Connecticut. A cloud of ash and fire rose into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun. Then came Tokyo, then London, then Sydney. 4 cities, 40 million dead. And the Volturi fleet had not even moved from orbit. On Earth, chaos erupted. People ran through the streets with nowhere to go. Governments issued emergency broadcasts that no one heard. Military jets scrambled into the air, but they were flies against dragons. Human missiles launched toward the alien ships. They exploded harmlessly against energy shields that glowed like soap bubbles. Kaloth watched it all with satisfaction. This was how it always went. First, the shock. Then, the despair. Then, the surrender. He had seen it 1,000 times on 1,000 worlds. But deep beneath a mountain in Colorado, something different was happening. General Yuki Tanaka stood in a room that did not officially exist. The walls were lined with screens showing feeds from around the world. Fires burned in every image. Death tolls scrolled past like stock prices. Around her, officers worked in grim silence. A young captain approached her. His face was pale. "General, we have confirmed the casualties. Over 40 million dead. The president is requesting a full nuclear response." Tanaka shook her head. "Nuclear weapons will not scratch those shields. We knew this day would come. We prepared for this day." She turned to face a large red panel on the wall. "Contact the president. Tell him it is time for Protocol Prometheus." 20 minutes later, Tanaka had authorization. She pressed her palm against a scanner. She entered a code that only 7 people on Earth knew. She spoke a phrase in a language that had been dead for 3,000 years. The mountains shook across the world. Things began to wake up. In the Nevada desert, a door opened in the sand. In the deep Pacific Ocean, shapes rose from the darkness. In orbit around Neptune, where no human ship had ever officially traveled, lights flickered on inside massive structures that had waited for 70 years. "Send the message," Tanaka ordered. "All Prometheus assets. All stations. Code Black. This is not a drill." On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, a sensor officer frowned at his console. Something was wrong. New readings were appearing. Energy signatures that had not been there moments before. "High Sovereign," the officer said, his voice uncertain. "We are detecting anomalies." Kaloth barely glanced at him. "Explain." "There are power sources activating across the planet and in space, beyond their moon. The readings are—" The officer trailed off. His 4 eyes went wide. "This is impossible." Kaloth walked to the sensor station. He looked at the data. For the first time in his long life, he felt something cold crawl up his spine. The humans had ships. Real ships. Not the primitive rockets they had been playing with. These were warships. Hundreds of them. They were appearing from nowhere, ripping through the fabric of space itself. Where did these come from? Kaloth demanded. How do they have this technology? No one answered. No one could. Admiral Vareth stared at the tactical display. His voice was a whisper. "High Sovereign, those weapon signatures, they match our own. No, they exceed our own." Below them, on the burning earth, General Tanaka looked up at the sky. She knew the Velthari were watching. She knew they were finally beginning to understand. Humanity had been hiding, playing weak, pretending to be primitive. For 70 years, they had prepared for this moment. They had built their weapons in secret. They had trained their soldiers in shadow. They had waited with the patience of predators. Tanaka allowed herself a small smile. "You wanted a war," she said quietly. "Now you have one." The trap was sprung. The hunt was about to begin. And the Velthari Empire, for the first time in 10,000 years, was the prey. The year was 1954 when everything changed for humanity. A Velthari scout ship crashed in the desert of New Mexico. The pilot was dead on impact, but the ship was mostly intact. The United States military found it first. They brought scientists. They brought soldiers. They brought questions that would take decades to answer. The ship was small, meant for only one passenger. But the technology inside was beyond anything humans had ever imagined. Energy shields. Faster than light engines. Weapons that could cut through steel like butter. The scientists worked in secret bunkers, taking apart every piece, trying to understand how it all worked. It took them 15 years just to understand the basic principles. It took another 20 years to build their first prototype ship. But they did it. Humanity learned. Humanity adapted. Humanity prepared. The crash ship also contained star maps. These maps showed the Velthari Empire in all its terrible glory. 2,000 conquered worlds, hundreds of enslaved species, an armada that numbered in the millions. The humans understood immediately what this meant. Somewhere out there, an empire existed that would one day come for Earth. So they made a decision. They would hide their progress. They would pretend to still be primitive. They would build rockets that used ancient technology while secretly constructing warships that could match any enemy. It was the greatest deception in human history. General Tanaka knew this history by heart. Her grandmother had been one of the first scientists to work on the alien ship. The knowledge had passed down through her family like a sacred duty. Now, standing in the command center beneath the mountain, she was about to see that duty fulfilled. Status report, she ordered. Colonel Marcus Webb, her second in command, pulled up a holographic display. The image showed Earth surrounded by red dots. Each dot was a Velthari warship. But now, blue dots were appearing. Humanity's hidden fleet was revealing itself. The Prometheus fleet is fully deployed, Webb said. 212 warships. All systems operational. The Velthari have not moved yet. I think we surprised them. Tanaka nodded. What about our ground forces? The Titan divisions are mobilizing. Power armor units are ready for deployment. We also have confirmation from the Neptune station. The big guns are online. The Neptune station was humanity's greatest secret. A massive weapons platform hidden in the outer solar system. It had been built over 40 years using technology that made the original Velthari ship look like a toy. The station held weapons that could destroy planets. Weapons that humanity hoped they would never have to use. But today, hope was not enough. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, High Sovereign Kaloth was trying to understand what was happening. His tactical officers were shouting numbers at him. His communication officers were receiving distress calls from ships across the fleet. Everything was falling apart. How? Kaloth demanded. How do they have this technology? Our scouts reported they were primitive. They had no space fleet. They had nothing. Admiral Vorath studied the enemy ships on the display. His face was gray with shock. They hid it from us. All these years, they hid it. The energy signatures. These ships are not copies of our technology. They have improved it. Their weapons are more powerful. Their shields are stronger. Impossible, Kaloth growled. We are the Velthari. We have conquered the galaxy. These are insects, apes. They cannot. A massive impact shook the flagship. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. Report. Kaloth shouted. Direct hit to our forward shields, an officer called out. Shield integrity down to 60%. One shot. One shot did that. Kaloth stared at the display. A single human warship had fired a single beam. And that single beam had nearly broken through his shields in one strike. His flagship had shields that could withstand hours of bombardment. This should not be possible. Return fire, he ordered. All ships, concentrate on that vessel. 50 Velthari warships turned their weapons on the human ship that had dared to attack. Plasma beams and missiles flew through space. The firepower was enough to crack a small moon. The human ship did not even try to dodge. It flew straight into the barrage. Its shields flickered, glowed, and held. When the light cleared, the ship was undamaged. It fired again. 2 Velthari cruisers exploded in balls of fire in the command center on Earth. General Tanaka watched the battle unfold. Her people were winning. After decades of hiding, after generations of sacrifice, humanity was finally showing its true strength. General, Colonel Webb said, we are receiving a transmission from the Velthari flagship. I think they want to negotiate. Tanaka almost laughed. Now they want to talk? After killing 40 million of our people? What should I tell them? Tanaka thought about her grandmother. She thought about all the scientists and soldiers who had worked in secret, who had died in secret, never seeing this day. She thought about New York and Tokyo and London and Sydney. She thought about the children who would never grow up because an empire had decided they were worthless. Tell them nothing, she said. Open a channel to our fleet. All ships, you are cleared to engage. No mercy, no prisoners. Make them pay for every life they took. The Prometheus fleet surged forward. 200 warships against 500. The numbers favored the Valkyrie. But numbers meant nothing when technology decided the outcome. Human ships moved faster than the Valkyrie could track. Human weapons cut through Valkyrie shields like paper. Human pilots, trained in simulators that perfectly recreated alien combat, flew circles around enemies who had never faced a real challenge. The first wave of combat lasted 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, 60 Valkyrie ships were destroyed. Humanity lost 2. High Sovereign Kaloth watched his empire's pride burn in the cold vacuum of space. He could not understand it. He could not accept it. These were humans. They built pyramids with their hands. They still used wheels. They still ate the flesh of animals, but they were killing his fleet. Send for reinforcements, he ordered. Contact the homeworld. Tell them we need. High Sovereign. The communication officer's voice was shaking. We cannot reach the homeworld. All long-range communication is being jammed. The source is... It is coming from beyond the 4th planet. Something very large is blocking all signals. Kaloth felt the cold fear grow stronger. What else were these humans hiding? What other surprises did they have? He would soon find out. And he would not like the answers. Across the solar system, the Neptune station powered up its main weapon. A beam of energy, brighter than a sun, lanced across space. It was aimed not at the battle near Earth. It was aimed at something much farther away. A wormhole opened. The beam passed through 20,000 light years away. In the heart of the Valkyrie Empire, the sky caught fire. The 14 minutes had begun. The clock started at 0. In the first minute, humanity showed the Valkyrie what real war looked like. The Prometheus fleet did not fight like any enemy the Empire had ever faced. Human ships moved together with perfect timing. Every shot was calculated by artificial intelligence that thought faster than any living brain. Every maneuver was practiced 1,000 times in simulation. 20 Valkyrie cruisers died in the first 60 seconds. They did not die slowly. They did not die with honor. They simply stopped existing. Human weapons turned metal and flesh into atoms. Fire blossomed in the darkness like flowers of death. On the eternal dawn, High Sovereign Kaloth gripped his command chair so hard that his claws left marks in the metal. Around him, his officers screamed orders that no one followed. Damage reports flooded every screen. The pride of the Valkyrie Empire was being torn apart. Fight back, Kaloth roared. We are Valkyrie. We do not run from primitives. But his ships were not running. They were dying. There was a difference. In the 3rd minute, the Prometheus fleet began its second phase. Smaller attack craft launched from the larger warships. These were called Wraith Fighters. They were fast, deadly, and piloted by men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Lieutenant Sarah Chun was one of these pilots. A great aunt had died in New York 2 hours earlier. Sarah did not know this yet. She only knew that alien monsters had attacked her home, and now she had a chance to make them pay. Her Wraith Fighter screamed through space at speeds that would kill an unprotected human. Her targeting computer painted enemy ships in red. She pressed the trigger and watched a Valkyrie destroyer break apart. This is for Earth, she whispered. Then she found another target. Across the battlefield, 1,000 pilots like Sarah were doing the same thing. The Valkyrie had never seen humans fight in space before. They had assumed humans would be slow, clumsy, and afraid. They were wrong about all three. In the 7th minute, the real horror began. Massive doors opened on the largest human warships. Drop pods launched toward the Valkyrie flagship. Each pod contained a squad of Marines in Titan power armor. The armor was twice the height of a normal human. It was strong enough to punch through walls. It was equipped with weapons that could cut through anything. The drop pods hit the eternal dawn like metal rain. They burned through the hull and crashed into corridors filled with Valkyrie soldiers. Sergeant Major James Okonkwo was the first to step out of his pod. He was a big man made bigger by his armor. His helmet displayed tactical information across his vision. 40 enemy contacts ahead. His weapon hummed with energy. "Clear the deck," he ordered his squad. No survivors. The Valkyrie soldiers fired their weapons. The plasma bolts splashed against Titan armor and did nothing. The Marines fired back. Valkyrie soldiers flew apart in sprays of purple blood. It was not a battle. It was an execution. In the 10th minute, everything changed. High Sovereign Kaloth received a message that broke his mind. His homeworld, the center of Valkyrie civilization, was gone. The Neptune station had fired through a wormhole. The weapon had struck the imperial capital directly. 20 billion Valkyrie had died in an instant. The palace of the emperors, standing for 10,000 years, was now a crater of glass and ash. Kaloth stared at the message. He read it 3 times. He could not believe it. His home, his family, his entire civilization, gone. In the time it took to read these words, everything he had ever known had ceased to exist. "No," he said. His voice was quiet now. The rage had left him. Only emptiness remained. "This cannot be. We are the Valkyrie. We are eternal." Admiral Vorath grabbed his arm. "High Sovereign, we must retreat. The fleet is lost. If we stay, we die." "Retreat to where?" Kaloth asked. "There is nowhere left. They destroyed our homeworld. They killed our people. Everything is gone." The flagship shook again. Explosions sounded in the distance. The human Marines were getting closer to the bridge. In the 12th minute, the Valkyrie fleet broke. Ships that had never known defeat suddenly ran like frightened animals. They turned away from Earth and tried to jump to faster than light speed. But the humans had planned for this. Gravity mines, hidden throughout the battlefield, activated and trapped the fleeing ships. One by one, the remaining Valkyrie vessels were destroyed. Some surrendered. Their surrender was not accepted. The humans had lost 40 million people. They were not in a forgiving mood. Captain Elena Rodriguez commanded the human battleship, Thunder of Terra. She watched the Valkyrie carrier try to flee. Her weapons officer looked at her, waiting for orders. "They killed children," Elena said softly. "They laughed while our cities burned." She gave the order. The carrier became debris. In the 14th minute, it ended. Sergeant Major Okonkwo kicked down the door to the Eternal Dawn's bridge. His squad spread out behind him, weapons raised. Valkyrie officers threw down their arms and fell to their knees. They had seen what happened to those who resisted. Only High Sovereign Kaloth remained standing. He faced a human soldier with empty eyes. His 4 pupils had gone dull. He looked like a creature that had already died and was simply waiting for its body to realize it. "You destroyed my empire," Kaloth said. 10,000 years of history. Billions of lives. Gone in minutes. Okonkwo removed his helmet. His face was hard and showed no sympathy. "You attacked our planet. You killed our people. You thought we were weak. You hid," Kaloth said. "You pretended. You tricked us." "Yes." Okonkwo smiled. It was not a nice smile. And you fell for it. On Earth, General Tanaka watched the final moments on her screens. The Valkyrie flagship was captured. The fleet was destroyed. The enemy homeworld was ash. It had taken 14 minutes. Just 14 minutes to end a war that the Valkyrie had expected to win in hours. She turned to face her officers. They looked at her with a mix of exhaustion, grief, and fierce pride. "Send a message to every frequency," she ordered. "Let the entire galaxy hear it. Earth is not to be touched. Humanity is not to be threatened. If anyone else wants to test us, they can ask the Valkyrie how that worked out." She paused. "Oh, wait. They cannot. Because the Valkyrie are gone." Across the stars, the message spread. And the galaxy listened. For the first time, they truly listened. Humanity had announced itself to the universe. And the announcement was written in fire. The galaxy had many eyes, and all of them had been watching. In a hidden station at the edge of known space, the conclave of 12 gathered. They were the true rulers of the universe. 12 species, each ancient and powerful, who had decided long ago to control things from the shadows. They did not conquer worlds directly. They manipulated. They guided. They chose which civilizations would rise and which would fall. The Valkyrie had been their attack dogs for 10,000 years. When a species grew too strong, the conclave would whisper in Valkyrie ears. The Empire would attack. The threat would be eliminated. The balance would be maintained. Now, the attack dogs were dead. And the conclave was afraid. Ambassador Drell was the oldest member of the conclave. His species, the Kellerith, had seeded life on 1,000 worlds over millions of years. They were the gardeners of the galaxy. Earth had been one of their projects. They had placed primitive apes there long ago, expecting them to evolve into useful servants. Instead, they had created monsters. "Play it again," Drell ordered. The recording showed the battle near Earth. It showed the Valkyrie fleet being torn apart. It showed the human ships moving with impossible speed and precision. It showed the homeworld of the Empire vanishing in nuclear fire. 14 minutes. The whole thing had taken 14 minutes. Counselor Mirith, a being of living crystal, made a sound like breaking glass. "This should not be possible. Our projections showed humanity would not achieve interstellar capability for another 3 centuries. We had time. We had plans." "Your projections were wrong," said Counselor Vrex. He was from a species of predators, all teeth and claws and hunger. Even he sounded nervous. "Clearly, the humans have been hiding their true level of development. For how long?" Mirith asked. Drell closed his many eyes. "At least 70 years. Perhaps longer. They found the crashed Valkyrie scout ship and reverse-engineered everything. Then they pretended to still be primitive. They fooled us. They fooled everyone. We should have watched them more closely," Rex growled. "We should have seen this coming." "We watched them constantly," another counselor said. "We saw their rockets. We saw their satellites. We saw their little robots rolling on other planets. We saw exactly what they wanted us to see." Silence fell over the chamber. The 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in that silence and felt something they had not felt in ages. Fear. Real, honest fear. In another part of the galaxy, the Karth Collective received the news. They were a hive mind, billions of insect creatures sharing one consciousness. They had been planning to expand into human space within the next century. The humans had rich planets, good resources, soft bodies that would be easy to harvest. The collective changed its plans immediately. Human space was now marked as Forbidden's territory. No Karth ship would go near it. No Karth scout would even look in that direction. The humans had destroyed an empire in 14 minutes. The collective did not want to find out what they could do in 15. On the trade world of Nexus Prime, merchants from 100 species gathered in the great markets. News of the battle spread like fire through dry grass. Everyone had heard of the Velthari. Everyone had feared them. And now everyone knew that the Velthari were gone. A Telani merchant, his blue scales shimmering with excitement, spoke to a crowd of listeners. My cousin's ship was near Earth when it happened. He saw the whole thing. The human ships came from nowhere. They were beautiful and terrible. They moved like dancers and killed like gods. The Velthari had 500 ships, someone said. They have none now, the merchant replied. The humans destroyed everything. Every single ship. They even sent something through a wormhole to attack the Velthari homeworld. Do you understand what that means? They can strike anywhere in the galaxy instantly. No one is safe from them. Panic spread through the market. Species that had never worried about Earth now scrambled to learn everything they could about humans. What did they want? What did they hate? How could they be appeased? Back at the conclave station, Drell made a decision. We must make contact with them, he said. We must sue for peace before they decide to come for us. Council of Rex bared his teeth. Sue for peace? We are the conclave. We do not beg. The Velthari did not beg either, Drell replied. Look where that got them. Rex fell silent. He had no answer. The humans are angry, Drell continued. They lost 40 million of their people. They will want justice, perhaps revenge. We must offer them something. Alliance, trade, technology, anything to show them we are not their enemies. And if they refuse? Mirath asked. Drell's old eyes grew dark. Then we hide. We scatter. We run to the farthest corners of the universe and hope they never find us. Because if the humans decide the conclave is their enemy, nothing in this galaxy will save us. The conclave voted. For the first time in their long history, they voted to approach another species as equals. They would send an ambassador to Earth. They would offer peace. They would hope that the humans were more merciful than the Velthari had been. On distant worlds, other changes were happening. The Revas pirates, who had raided thousands of ships over centuries, held an emergency meeting. Their leader, a scarred female named Keth, stood before her captains. New rule, she announced. No human ships. No human colonies. No human stations. We do not touch anything that belongs to humanity. Anyone who breaks this rule will be killed by me personally. Do you understand? No one argued. The Raviks were pirates, not fools. The Slavers Guild, an organization that had trafficked in living beings for millennia, updated their records. Humans were now classified as forbidden stock, not because they were protected by law, because they were too dangerous. Word spread through the underworld, through the trading posts, through the military academies of 1,000 species. Earth was off limits. Humans were not prey. Anyone who thought otherwise would end up like the Velthari in the cold depths of space, drifting through the debris field that had once been the greatest fleet in the galaxy. A small Velthari escape pod tumbled end over end. Inside, a young officer named Solith listened to the silence of his dead empire. He had been unconscious when the final attack came. He had woken to find everything gone. His ship, his crew, his high sovereign. All of it was debris now. Solith was alone. He was the last Velthari in the solar system. Perhaps the last Velthari anywhere. He looked at the tiny image of Earth on his damaged screen. The blue planet hung in space, peaceful and beautiful. It did not look like the home of killers. It did not look like the graveyard of empires. But it was. Solith started to laugh. The sound was broken, desperate, and completely without hope. The universe had changed in 14 minutes, and nothing would ever be the same again. The humans had announced themselves to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never forget the announcement. 1 year passed. Earth healed. It did not heal quickly, and it did not heal completely, but it healed. The craters where New York and Tokyo and London and Sydney had stood were now memorial parks. Flowers grew in soil that had once been ash. Names of the dead were carved in the walls of black stone that stretched for miles. 40 million names. 40 million stories ended too soon, but humanity did not dwell in grief. They built. They created. They reached toward the stars with hands that the universe now knew to fear. New cities rose from the ruins. They were taller than before, stronger than before, more beautiful than before. Human engineers used alien technology openly now. Buildings floated on anti-gravity platforms. Streets glowed with clean energy. The sky was filled with ships coming and going, trading with 100 worlds that had once never heard of Earth. General Yuki Tanaka stood at the window of her office in the new United Earth military headquarters. She was older now. The year had aged her more than the previous decade. She had sent soldiers to die. She had ordered the destruction of a civilization. She had saved her species. Some nights, she still dreamed of the Valkyrie homeworld burning. A knock came at her door. Colonel Webb entered, carrying a tablet. "General, the Conclave ambassadors have arrived. They are waiting in the reception hall." Tanaka nodded. She had been expecting this meeting for months. The Conclave had sent messages, gifts, and promises. They wanted peace. They wanted to pretend they had not spent millennia manipulating younger species like pieces on a game board. Tanaka intended to make them work for it. The reception hall was vast, designed to impress. Flags of every nation on Earth hung from the ceiling. Human soldiers in dress uniforms lined the walls. At the center of the room, 12 alien figures waited. The Conclave of 12 had come to Earth in person. This had never happened before. They did not visit younger species. Younger species came to them on their knees, begging for favor. Now they stood on human ground, in a human building, waiting for humans to acknowledge them. Ambassador Drell stepped forward as Tanaka entered. He was ancient, his skin wrinkled and gray, his eyes holding wisdom and cunning in equal measure. He bowed low. "General Tanaka," he said, "on behalf of the Conclave, I thank you for receiving us." Tanaka did not bow. She did not smile. She simply stared at the alien ambassador with eyes that had seen too much death to care about diplomatic games. "You knew about the Valkyrie," she said. "You could have warned us. You could have stopped them. Instead, you used them to control the galaxy while pretending to be peaceful observers." Drell did not deny it. "We have made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. We came here to acknowledge them. We came here to offer humanity a place in the Conclave. As equals, as partners." "As equals," Tanaka repeated. The word tasted strange in her mouth. "The Conclave has existed for millions of years. You have controlled hundreds of civilizations. And now you want us to believe you see us as equals?" "We have no choice," Drell said honestly. "Your species has shown that it cannot be controlled. It cannot be manipulated. It can only be respected or feared. We prefer to offer respect." Tanaka walked closer to the alien. She was shorter than him, smaller than him, but in that moment, she seemed to tower over the ancient being. 40 million people died because you let the Valkyrie run wild," she said. "Children, families, innocent people who had never hurt anyone. They died so you could maintain your balance of power." "Yes," Drell admitted. "And we cannot undo that crime. We can only try to prevent future crimes. Humanity has power now. Real power. You could use that power to destroy, as the Valkyrie did. Or you could use it to build something better. And you think we need your guidance to do that?" Drell shook his head. "No, we think we need your guidance. The galaxy is changing. Old powers are falling. New threats are rising. Humanity has shown that it can face any enemy and win. The Conclave does not want you as servants. We want you as partners. Tanaka was silent for a long moment. She thought about the war. She thought about the dead. She thought about what kind of future her people would build. We will consider your offer, she finally said. But understand this. Humanity does not forgive easily. We do not forget at all. If the Conclave ever threatens Earth again, if any member of your organization ever harms our people, we will not stop at one empire. We will burn every world that stands against us. Jor-El nodded. He had expected nothing less. We understand, General, and we accept your terms. The meeting ended with handshakes, not weapons. It was progress. Perhaps it was even hope. Months later, the first human ambassador took her seat in the conclave chamber. Her name was Dr. Amara Okafor. She was a diplomat, a scientist, and a survivor of the Sydney attack. She walked into the chamber with a scar on her face and steel in her eyes. The other counselors watched her with a mixture of respect and fear. This small, soft-looking creature represented a species that had ended an empire in 14 minutes. They would be very careful around her. Dr. Okafor took her seat and looked around the chamber. 12 species, each ancient and powerful, now counted humans among their number. It was a new age, a new beginning. On Earth, life continued. Children played in parks built on the graves of cities. Students learned about the Veltari War in history classes. Young people dreamed of exploring the stars, not as weak primitives hiding their strength, but as proud members of a galactic civilization. General Tanaka retired. She bought a small house in the Japanese countryside, near where her grandmother had been born. She planted a garden and watched the sunrise, and tried not to dream about burning worlds. One evening, a young reporter came to interview her. The reporter asked what message Tanaka had for future generations. Tanaka thought for a long time before answering. "We were sheep once," she said. "We pretended to be harmless. We let the wolves think they could eat us whenever they wanted. But we were never really sheep. We were wolves ourselves, wearing wool and waiting." She looked up at the stars, now filled with human ships and human stations and human hope. The universe knows what we are now. They know that we can be friends or we can be enemies, but we will never be victims again. That is the lesson of the Veltari War. That is what I want future generations to remember. The reporter nodded and ended the recording. Above them, the stars shone bright. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and dangers. Humanity was ready for all of it. They had walked through fire and come out stronger. They had faced annihilation and answered with thunder. They had shown the universe what happened when you underestimated the children of Earth. And now, finally, they were home among the stars, where they belonged, where they would stay. Forever.